Hey, it's Camila Stevenson, and around here we talk wealth. And the last couple of days in crypto hasn't made any sense to me. We're watching a major liquidation event. Leverage got wiped out, fears spiked, and price action is looking a bit broken. But at the exact same time, something else is happening that doesn't line up with that picture at all to me. A lot of the biggest names in crypto, not influencers, not random accounts, but people actually building this space are suddenly willing to go on record about 2026 being a bull run. And this isn't sometime in the future, not 5 years out. They're talking about one specific window with a level of confidence that we usually don't hear. Now, that combination is strange. You don't usually see extreme liquidation and extreme confidence showing up together. One of those is supposed to cancel out the other. And right now, they're happening at the same time. So the question I keep coming back to is, are we watching a market break, or are we watching the kind of shakeout that happens right before something changes? That's what I want to walk through in this video, because the mismatch between what price is doing and what insiders are saying is too big to ignore. And if you're trying to position in this market, it's going to matter to you. And I want to share with you how I'm personally approaching this. Now, go ahead and like the video and subscribe if you haven't already, so that you do not miss the next video. And let me know if what you're seeing in the market is strange to you. Also, I do want to say this is not financial advice. Everything I say is for educational and entertainment purposes only. All right, so let's go through what just happened. We had a sharp liquidation event. Leverage has come out of the market very fast. As a matter of fact, most of it has been wiped away. Longs were also forced out, funding flipped, and fear showed up almost immediately. Now, what we saw happen isn't controversial. Anyone watching the data can see exactly what happened. But what's harder to explain is why it happened the way it did. See, this didn't feel like a reaction to one specific piece of news. There wasn't a single headline where everyone said, oh, that explains it. It was more like pressure that had been building quietly, finally released all at once. When you look at the open interest and funding and how quickly leverage disappeared, it looks like positioning getting cleared, not people suddenly losing belief in crypto altogether. And that's a very important difference that you have to look for, because normally when markets get hit this hard, the tone everywhere changes. People stop speaking confidently. Executives get careful. Language gets vague. Predictions get walked back. That's not what's happening right now. In fact, we're seeing the opposite. Brad Garlinghouse went on record talking about all new highs. You've got leaders from the exchanges, asset managers, and major crypto companies all saying versions of the same thing, that 2026 is shaping up to be a major year for this space. That's obviously contradictory to what we see on the price charts right now. And usually those two things don't show up together, where the price charts are crazy low, and then you have heavy hitters in the game talking about where this year is going to end up. You usually don't see a market getting shaken out this aggressively while the people closest to the infrastructure are speaking with this level of confidence. Now, that doesn't mean they're guaranteeing anything, okay? It doesn't mean that price has to move tomorrow, but it does raise a question. If this was a genuine breakdown, you'd expect a very different tone from the people building and operating inside the system. Instead, what we're seeing is fear in price and confidence in language at the same time. And that's why I don't think this move can be understood just by looking at a chart. There's a bigger mismatch forming between what the market is doing and what people inside it are saying. And that's where things start to get very interesting. So let's talk about that confidence, because this is where things really start to stand out. It's not just that a few people are optimistic. Optimism is normal in crypto. What's unusual is how specific and how public these statements have become. Again, you have Brad Garlinghouse saying he's comfortable going on record about new all-time highs. You got leaders from major exchanges, asset managers, and institutions all talking about the same general window. Just to remind you again, they're not thinking 5 years out. They are thinking 2026. Now, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't position yourself long term, because guess what? Anything can happen. It doesn't matter who's speaking out. And right now, there is a lot of uncertainty. And I have to give that caveat, because nobody has a crystal ball. But with the statements that's been said by the big players, That's not how people usually talk unless they feel like something is lining up. And again, I do want to be clear about something here. I am not saying they're all coordinating. I'm not saying they have some secret meeting that retail doesn't know about. What I am saying is that people who operate at that level tend to see the same things forming before everyone else does. They see regulation moving even when it's slow. They see infrastructure getting built even when price doesn't reflect it. They see pipelines forming that don't show up on the chart yet. And that's why this feels different from the usual hype cycle. Normally, price leads the conversation. Price runs first, then everyone explains why after the fact. This time, the conversation is getting louder while price is getting weaker. That's backwards. It makes me think this isn't about calling a top or calling a bottom. It's about people positioning their language ahead of a structural shift they expect to play out over time. And that's also why I'm not taking these comments as price predictions in the way people usually do. I'm taking them as signals about expectations, not guarantees. When enough people at the top start saying similar things, it usually means the environment is changing, even if the market hasn't caught up yet. That doesn't mean volatility is over, because I don't think it is. It also doesn't mean we can't go lower first. I think that's a strong possibility. And it doesn't mean that this year has to be smooth, because we all know how the market moves. But it does tell me that this sell off probably isn't the whole story. Because if the people closest to the infrastructure thought that this was truly falling apart, you wouldn't hear this level of confidence being expressed out loud. And you wouldn't see the type of positioning that's been happening over the past several months. And that brings us to the real question. If this isn't just random optimism and it's not just marketing talk, then what exactly are they seeing that makes them comfortable saying these things? So, what could actually justify that level of confidence, especially with price doing what it's doing? And we all know that price has been suppressed for quite some time. Now, when I strip it down, I keep coming back to three things that don't usually show up on the charts. First, regulation is closer than it's ever been, even if it is messy and slow. People on the outside see delays, but people on the inside see drafts, frameworks, negotiations, and timelines. Those are very different vantage points. You don't go on record the way some of these leaders are unless you believe the direction is set, even if the process isn't finished. Second, the infrastructure is much further along than it was in any previous cycle. Custody, on ramps, tokenization, settlement layers, payments, compliance tooling, all of that exists now in a way it simply didn't before. In past cycles, price ran ahead of reality. This time, reality is being built first. Third, liquidity behavior is changing. A lot of the leverage that exaggerated moves in previous cycles has already been shaken out. What's left is slower, more deliberate capital. That doesn't mean price can't move violently in the short term. It does mean the next phase is less about speculation and more about allocation. When I put those three things together, I don't hear people predicting a straight line up. I hear people saying they believe the environment is changing enough that higher prices become possible without the same fragility we've seen before. That is the distinction. It also explains why this sell off feels confusing. You've got short term pressure colliding with long term preparation. Those two forces can coexist for a while before the market resolves them. So for me, that's not a signal to rush or panic. It's a signal to be thoughtful about how I'm positioned and how patient I'm willing to be. Which brings me to the last piece, what I'm actually doing with all of this. So here's what I'm actually doing with all of this, because that's the only part that matters for me. And hopefully you can find your space and what you need to do for you. I'm not trying to call the exact top. I'm not trying to call the exact bottom. I'm not assuming price can't go lower. I'm also not sitting on my hands waiting for everything to feel safe again. I'm positioning into weakness slowly, and I'm comfortable with volatility while that plays out. If this confidence we're hearing from industry leaders turns out to be right, then this kind of price action is the part people look back on one day and say, that was uncomfortable, but it made so much sense. If they're wrong, then I still haven't overextended myself chasing a narrative. That's the balance that I care about. What I don't see right now is the kind of behavior that usually shows up when something is actually breaking. I see stress, I see leverage coming out, I see fear, but I also see preparation happening in the background at the same time. And that's why I keep coming back to this idea that we're not just watching a sell off, we're watching a transition. There's a wealth transition happening. That doesn't mean that it's over this week. It doesn't mean it's easy from here. It means this is the part of the cycle where decisions matter more than emotions. And you know what? A very simple thing that I do is as I see the fear increasing, I buy. I buy fear and I continue to do it. And if there's extreme fear, then I buy more because history will show that when you fast forward, those were the best buying opportunities. So that's what I'm doing. One of the things that makes this very easy for me is that I am long-term minded. How you hold assets matter just as much as what you hold. And that's why I also use I Trust Capital for part of my crypto exposure inside a Roth IRA. It gives me structure and tax advantages if this next phase plays out the way a lot of people are expecting. I also want to point out something practical I use for myself, especially in uncertain markets like this, and that is the premium custody account with I Trust Capital. This isn't just a place to hold your crypto. It's an institutional grade custody system and is built for long-term investors first, but you still have the flexibility to trade when you need to. Your assets are held off exchange with regulated custodians and a closed loop system that prevents crypto from being moved out of external wallets if someone's account gets compromised. With this account, you can buy and sell crypto 24/7, hold stable coins like USDC, and even add precious metals like gold and silver all in the same place, all without the pressure of forced selling during volatility. There's also staking available for eligible assets right inside the platform. So while you're waiting through price swings, you can earn passive rewards on things like ETH or Solana. The way I see it, having a secure place like that with institutional custody, no exchanges in the middle, and diversified options beyond just crypto price moves, it makes it easier to stay disciplined through uncertain cycles and be ready for the next leg higher. I'll put that link in the description for you. Also, I want to share something important because markets like this are not meant to be navigated alone. And it's not because people aren't smart. It's just because uncertainty really messes with your head. And when your head isn't clear, even good information doesn't help. And that's why I built my coaching and community the way I did. We're a group of people moving in the same direction, holding one another accountable and thinking long term. I'm in there every single week. We do live Q&A. We walk through your portfolio, your game plans, your risk, your positioning. When something changes in the market, you're not going to try to figure it out in isolation. There's also education inside, videos you can actually apply, and a support team that helps keep you on track when emotions start creeping in. And I'll say this too, because most people forget this. Your health is a part of your wealth. If you're exhausted, anxious, or constantly stressed, you are going to make worse decisions. So we talk about mindset, nervous system, and staying sharp mentally and physically, because that's part of building anything long term. I don't keep this open to everyone, and the price is going up soon. So if you are thinking about being in a space where you can be supported, guided, and not reacting alone, then this is the right time. The link is in the description for that. And I cannot overstate this. You are your greatest asset. So make sure you invest in yourself. And as always, I want you to stay wise, stay wealthy, and I'll see you in the next video.